Now, before I do get into today's workshop, I just want to kind of give a brief overview of what we went over last time. This is part two of a two-part workshop. Last time we went over some of the basic user interface of Excel. So if any of you are completely unfamiliar with Excel, please let me know now and I can go over a little bit of that. But if you've got a basic understanding of Excel, then we'll go ahead and move forward. So today we're going to be looking at some bigger data sets. So last time we looked at a pretty small data set. This isn't an enormous data set, but it's pretty big. There's a lot going on here. So this is an example of a set of expenditures that an office worker might have, right? So you've got order dates, you've got a place where the order was made, who made the order, and the item. So this is like school supplies, right? You've got pencils and binders and pens and that kind of thing, so school supplies. So this tells you the item, and here we have units. This is the number of each item. And then here we have unit cost. This is the cost of each item. So this is all data that you would input by hand. You're not doing anything funny with it. It's all just straight. You could do all this by hand. Now, this next part here, subtotal, what we're doing here is we're just multiplying the number of units by unit cost. So you could do this by hand, and it's possible, but that would take a long time. So one of the advantages of something like Excel is filling out these kind of forms. So if I actually use the formula here, where I take this first cell, F3, times this next cell, G3, you can see F here, 3 here, G here, and 3 here. So you can see they match up with the columns and rows. So F3 times G3, that's going to give us the subtotal of 189.05. Now, if I click this little box here in the bottom right corner, I can click and drag it down to carry the formula through, or I can double click it and it'll carry it all the way down. Now I'll get down to this in a minute, but we've got a grand total as well. So that's really helpful. I'm sorry, was that Claude? Who was that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know all those different formulas. I mean, you can hit the formula and it automatically will suck like the F3, G3 and pull it over, and then you can pull it straight down. But the double click was
Yeah,
uh,
and
was always a little hot piece.
especially for large sets of data like we'll look at here in a minute. We're going to have 700 data points, so in that case, you don't want to click and drag, it'll take forever. Okay, so for the next one, we want to apply tax, right? So for tax here in Texas, it's going to be a sales tax is 625, so that's 6.25%. So what we do is we take our subtotal here, and we multiply it by 0.0625, which is 6.25%. That gives us our tax. And then for our total, we just add the two together. So again, if we carry this down, and we carry this down, it'll fill out our subtotal, tax, and total for each of these items. And if we scroll down here to the bottom, here we have our grand total. Now for the grand total, we're using something called a sum. So sum is a function within Excel, and we'll look at those in just a minute. But what it does is it takes each of the values in this row here from 189 here all the way down to this 139, adds them together, and it gives you this number. Now if I want to know what the sum of this next column is, we just drag this guy over here, and here, since these have already since it just automatically shifts the row over when I shift the formula over, it knows that it needs to get from I3 to I45, so this is I and this was H. And if I drag it over again, this one will again know to take from J. So this will, J here. So this will get J3 through J45, and you'll get the total there. So that's just kind of some tricks, something maybe a little more practical that you can do with Excel if you need to keep track of some expenses. And next week we'll be looking at financial awareness. So this might kind of go in with that as well. Okay. So this next thing here, we've got a large data set. We've got some sample data. These are random points somewhere between 0 and 2,000. And so we've got 700 of them. There's a whole lot of them. If I scroll down, there's just a whole bunch. Some of them have decimals, but for the most part, they are going to be whole numbers. So like here, for instance, this one has a decimal. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a couple of different formulas. So we've got different formulas in Excel that we can use. These are some of the simplest, easy to understand, and useful formulas. So the first formula here is going to be count. If I type equals count and then I open a parenthesis, so I'll show you what that looks like here, starting from scratch. Equals count, and then I open a parenthesis. Here you're going to see it'll tell me what to fill in. When we want to count how many values there are here. So I click this first value, and then I can either click and drag through all the values. So we click and drag a couple here, and we close the parenthesis. And that'll say, well, I just selected 14 values. But if I want to know, for example, through the whole set of data, I can just go look at what the last cell is. So in this case, this one here, the last cell is at B702. So I go up here and I just replace this last value here with B702. And that gives us the total number in your column. So that can be really helpful if, for example, if your data doesn't start at 1, it starts at 3, like I've done here. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to do a sum. Again, a sum is just taking all of these same values, so from B3 to B702, and we're adding them up. The total added value of all these numbers comes out to this value, which is 1,124,000, about. Okay. The next value is average. So average is going to take the average value. It's going to take all of the numbers, add them up, and divide them by the total number. So this number is actually this number divided by 700. So you could also get this. You could get the same answer by saying equals this one divided by this one. You should get you should get the same number. So that's one way you can find average, or you can just use the formula for average if you don't want to think about it. Next, we have min and max. So this gives us the minimum value, so the smallest number in all of these numbers, and this gives us the maximum value in all of these numbers. Again, it's just equals max, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and you just select your range. Alright, these next two formulas are not applied to a range, but they're only applied to a single number. So round, a round function allows you to round up or down a number. So for example, here I'm applying to this 13 here. So what this does is it's going to round this number. So here we select round, and here we select the number we want to round, and here we select the number of digits. So here I've written -2. So -2 means you're going to round digits above the decimal places. So 2 points above the decimal place. So for example, if I were to write this out as 1513.00, what I'm saying is I want to round the 2 digits to the left of the decimal place. Next, we look at this next one here. So here we're doing round on this number, the 9.21, and we're rounding with this number, and we're doing 1 decimal. So since it's a positive number, we want to round so that we have 1 decimal place to the right. And so we've just removed that 2 from the we've removed the 1 from the 9.21. And again, I've posted this Excel sheet in the chat. So if you want, you can look at here. This website's got a whole bunch of lists of formulas and examples for each of those.
Oh, cool. So I'm sitting here typing it on my Excel right now.
Yeah. And if you can't see if the link's not working there for you, I was having some problems posting it a minute ago. Just let me know, and when you fill out the post assessment, and I can send that to you as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, this next set of data, we've got another big set of data here. We have dates and times. So these are dates running from January 2019 through December of 2020, and we have some random times. So here, we've got some useful formulas. We've got the today formula. So here, there's no argument. Nothing goes in the parentheses. You just type today, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and it gives you today's date. Next, we have year. So if we take year and apply it to one of these cells, so the date cell here, it will automatically know which of these numbers is year. So it'll extract 2019. Same thing for month. This will extract 2 from this one. And date and day, it will extract 26 from this one. Same idea with hour, minute, and second here. So if we look at hour, it takes 5 from here. Minute, it takes 28 from here. And second, it takes 57 from here. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, well, what if this is 5 p.m., right? Well, it automatically knows to convert it from AM to PM. So if you have AM or PM, it'll convert that. It'll add 12 for PM. So you'll be on it'll be like military time. So it'll be 0 through 23. Okay. Now, what if I want to take these values and I want to convert the entire set of values into a column? Maybe we just need to split the values up for whatever reason. So here what I've gone ahead and done is I've just copied these formulas over. Now I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to drag them down so that they match up. And now I've converted these 2 columns into 6 columns of separate data. That way we can access each one individually. So all I've done here is I've copied these formulas, the month, day, year, hour, minute, second. I've copied them over, and then I dragged them down. All right. Next, we're going to look at some pie charts. So last time we looked at some 2-dimensional charts. We're looking at plots and making a graph between different data points. But this time we're going to look at some pie charts. So for a pie chart, it's a little bit different. What you want to do is you want to select your titles. So that would be bears, dolphin, and whale. So that's the things we're distributing between. And then your data. But you can only select one set of data. So pie charts, you can't select everything. You want to select just these values. Then we go to insert, and then we go to pie chart. And here it'll fill out a pie chart. Now I've gone ahead and I've changed the title here. Again, to change the title, you just double click on the title. Go in here, we change wildlife, so on. So we're not going to fill all of that out, but you go in here and change the title. Now you may be asking, okay, but how do I get this next one? So what you do, and the easiest way to do this, because you need to select this value, and we're doing 2019, so if I want to select 2019, the easiest way is if I select those values and then I hold down Control on my keyboard and then select the next values. That will separately select 2 rows. So let's do that again. I select this row, hold down Control, select this row, hit Insert, go to Pie Chart, click here, and we've got our pie chart. Same thing again here with the 2022. So select that, hold down Control, select the next one, Insert, Pie Chart. All right. Now finally we want to look at some bar charts and some histograms. So bar charts and histograms, they look similar, but they're a little bit different in how you make them in Excel. So here, as an example, I have a set of grades. We have 30 grades here, I believe. No, actually it might be a little more than that. It's like 40, somewhere in there. So we've got some grades, like as example grades for maybe a test, right? And I've gone ahead and converted each of these grades. If they're a 70 something, it's a C. If it's a 60 something, it's a D. If it's below a 60, it's an F. If it's 90 something, it's an A, and so on. So we've gone ahead and converted each of those grades into a letter grade. And then what I've done here is I've manually gone in and I've said, okay, if I have letter grade A, B, C, D, and F, how often do they occur? So I've counted the frequency. Now, once I have this, what I can do is I can select this data here, the frequency data. So the frequency for A, B, C, D, and F. Then I go to Insert, and I want to go to this one here. That's going to be Insert Column or Bar Chart. That's in the Insert tab, Charts. It's Insert Column or Bar Chart, and that's going to be this guy here. And then again, we can go in and change the title if we want. Okay, let's go ahead and delete that. And then finally this one, the histogram. Now histogram, for this one, you just take the data directly. So I want to select all of the numbers, And you wouldn't be able to use this with, for example, A, B, C, D, and F. You would want to use the direct numbers. So I select the data, I go to Insert, and then I go to Histogram. Now histogram's a little weird, right? So I've created the histogram, but it doesn't really make sense. Here, see, it says 50, 64, 64, 78, 78, 92. We don't want it in that form. That's kind of useless. So let me drag this out of the way. So what we can do instead is if I go down here and I click on the axis, these numbers here, it'll highlight and it'll say horizontal axis. If I right click on that and I go to format axis, or see if I double click it automatically pulled it up. I want to go in here and I want to change something called the bin width. So bin is a range of numbers. So we want to look at a range of numbers, let's say of 10 values each. So that way, we'll go from 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90, 90 to 100. So that tells us roughly how many A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's there are. And as well, let's say we had numbers going below 50, right? And we just wanted to know how many F's there were. We don't care how many that are 50, 40, 30, whatever. So what we can then do is we do an underflow bin here, which limits the lower limit. So let's say 60 is the lowest number we care about, and then we just say instead of 50 to 60, it's anything equal to or less than 60 goes here. So again, I know this one's pretty complicated. Histogram's pretty complicated. Just again, to make the histogram, you select your numbers, you go to Insert, and then you go here to Histogram, or Insert Statistic Chart, and then Histogram. And then what you want to click on the horizontal axis, format axis, and then you'll change your bin width and your underflow bin. You can also change your overflow bin. So if, for example, if I had students who had grades over, like maybe there's a bonus point question, so students got 104 on the exam or something. In that case, I could say overflow, and we say 100. All right. Now, that's all I had to go over today. I want to go ahead and open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and speak up, and I'll try to address those first.
Yeah, no questions for me.
Great. Ciro, you got any questions?
No, this is pretty much my first lesson.
I see. I understand. Now, if you missed last week's lesson, we actually created a video of it, and we've uploaded it to YouTube. We've posted a link to that on our social media, so if you follow us on Facebook, you can find it there. And if you're not on either of those social media platforms, you can just let us know, or let me know, and I can send you a direct link to the YouTube video. All right, what about Christian or Eric? Do you guys have any questions?
No, sir.
All right. I want to go ahead and let you all know. Next week, we're going to be doing, again, I mentioned this before, we're going to be doing a workshop on financial awareness. So this is going to be how to budget and track personal finances. This is going to be mostly tips and tricks, so what I'll do is I'll have a PowerPoint for you. But I will at the end there, I'll go over a practical example, and I'll use Excel, but I'm going to, for that one, I'm going to write it up in such a way that maybe you don't have Excel, so I would show you how you can do it in Excel, but it would also be doable by hand on paper.